Hello, everybody. This is the Insurance Disruptors podcast, and we are back after a week break. We're back here and we're ready to hit it. And this is a podcast for insurance agents where we add value. We provide tips and different things that we have learned and that other people have learned that are successful to make them a disruptor in the insurance industry. And I have Abe Busick with me, a co-host. I'm co-host. My name's Nate Jones. Abe, how you doing, man?
Good, man. It's been a good couple of weeks. Business got a little bit busy this last week, I think, for both of us, and that's a good thing ultimately, right? But it's good to be back here in the saddle and putting out some content for everybody. So I'm excited. How about you?
Yeah, it's sometimes things get busy and we had to push it back. We try to do it every week, but hey, you know what? We got businesses to run, and but we're back here and we're ready to hit it hard with you guys. Today we are talking about how do you find potential clients. This is all about sales. How do you get sales in, and how do you find potential clients? And what we're kind of the outline of what we're talking about today is getting attention. How do we get attention? You can get attention multiple different ways, calling leads different ways. But the biggest thing, the number one thing is we got to collect data. We got to get data some way, somehow. And the biggest thing that Abe and I both have learned from is having multiple flows of collecting data. And we're going to talk. It's the first thing we're going to talk about in a second. The second thing is reaching out to that data consistently. Then the third thing is organizing and executing on those conversations that you've had with those prospects. The fourth thing is staying in touch, whether you get the client or you don't. And then the fifth thing is repeating the whole process. So Abe, why don't you talk about how you get your prospects in, basically all your offense? How do you do it?
Yeah, and I love that we're talking about this topic because at the end of the day, if you don't have a solid prospecting process or structure in place for yourself, you're going to be out of business before you even get started, right?
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit before we started recording here. If you're only chasing your friends and your family, you're not going to make it. So you need a solid prospecting structure and process in place for yourself. So I love this topic, and I think it's something that a lot of agents struggle with, and we're just here to kind of share our knowledge with our experience of how we've done that. But me personally, I'm on the life insurance side, and I use leads. So there's a variety of different types of leads that we'll use. If you're in life insurance, you might be familiar with mortgage protection leads, final expense insurance leads, life insurance leads, annuity leads, IUL leads, all different types of leads that basically we're just prospecting out to potential clients to see who might be interested. And then we follow up with them from there. But I think when you're looking for leads, there's a couple main things. I've been in the business, like I said, for 4.5 years. So there's a couple of things that I've learned about using leads that I think if I could have learned this early on in the beginning, it would have saved a lot of headaches when I first got started in insurance. So when you're working leads primarily, Nate, you want to really make sure first off that it's a quality lead. There's a lot of garbage leads out there. People are always looking to make a quick dime, and there's a lot of potentially garbage life insurance leads out there. And so what makes it a quality lead? I'll just real quick hit on it. First and foremost, it's not a bait and switch lead. We've all gotten that junk mail in the mail where it talks about, hey, send in your name and number for a free cruise drawing, or you've been at the fair or the carnival and there's always somebody standing there. Hey, put on your name and number and your email address and we'll enter you into a raffle for a free cruise. And what happens is you don't win the cruise. You didn't realize you gave your name and number out to somebody who's going to call you about selling you windows, every day, 10 days, 10 times a day. But so not a bait and switch lead, right? And the client needs to know what they're filling out and why, what they're requesting information on. It needs to be very clear on the lead. It also needs to be a client action driven lead. What do I mean by that? I mean that it takes a little bit of effort on the client's part to create that lead for us to reach out to them. There's going to be some information they're required to put in before it ever reaches my desk for me to reach out to them. And that's going to be typically date of birth, name, phone number, address, email, depending on what type of lead it is, if it's mortgage protection or insurance, internet, final expense. They may put in how much life insurance they're looking for, but they have to give us some key points of data so we know that they're at least a little bit serious and that we're not going to be wasting our time reaching out to them. Also, make sure it's TCPA compliant. If you don't know what that is, Google that. Basically, that's a law now regarding reaching out to people and when they fill out leads, that if it's not TCPA compliant, you can get sued and put out of business before you even get started. And that's been happening a lot lately. So make sure your lead is TCPA compliant. If you're using a lead company to generate that, just ask them, hey, is this lead TCPA compliant? And they'll be able to tell you yes or no. And then lastly, when you're talking about a quality lead, Nate, ultimately you want to make sure your return on investment is 3 to 5 times what you spent. And so if I spend $1,000 on a batch of leads, my return on investment needs to be at least $3,000 to $5,000 that I'm making back off of that for it to be sustainable and actually profitable in this industry, right? So that's a couple things there. Also, make sure the lead is exclusive to you. There's a lot of lead companies out there that will sell that same lead to multiple agents. That's not a good look for you, and that's not a good feeling for your clients when they're getting 100 different phone calls from the one lead they filled out, all these different companies. You want to make sure when you're working with a lead company that they are only selling that lead to you and to nobody else. And then lastly, as well, when we're talking about leads and quality leads and what should you look for in a lead, there's some data you want to really make sure that you're measuring for yourself. And a key data point to make sure you're profitable and it's a good lead for yourself on life insurance is your cost per appointment should range between $60 to $100 per appointment. And basically what that means is just take all the money you spent on leads, and after you've resolved them, how many appointments did you get off of those? So divide your total spent by your total amount of appointments. And that should fluctuate somewhere between $60 and $100 a month. If it gets to be lower than that, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just usually is a sign you're spending a lot more time on the phones than what you need to be. And you might start looking around for other leads. If you're spending more than that per appointment, that's usually a sign that you're overpaying for leads and you either need to figure out some different processes or potentially look for a new lead source. But that's for me how I acquire my prospects, Nate, is through leads. And we've talked about how to call leads in another podcast, so I didn't want to go into that. But if you're looking for leads, that's a good place to start, is quality, exclusivity, and cost per appointment. That's the 3 things you really want to watch out for when you're looking for leads in the insurance industry.
Yeah. Okay. So that's more life insurance focused, is that the leads, you would say, on the life side, it's something you almost have to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's different theories out there, right?
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of successful people out there who don't use leads in life insurance. For me, when I came into the insurance industry, I was not just looking to make money, but I was also looking to make sure I had some time back in my life, right? And so there'll be people out there who don't use leads, and they'll tell you, door knock, cold call, data list, and they'll work. Anything works when you work it, right? But for me personally, I've made the decision for myself and for my agency, we're going to be lead driven because ultimately I feel like that's where we get our best ROI, not just in money, but also on time.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, life insurance is one of those products that people don't buy every year. There's a specific time when they buy it. And, if you're cold calling almost every house, we're close to Indianapolis. I don't know how many people live in Indianapolis, but there's probably a small percentage that is actually ready to buy life insurance. And if how do you best use your time? Well, how do you find the people who are ready to buy? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's for me is I pay people to outsource all that data and all that legwork in the beginning. So by the time they hit my desk, there's at least been some sort of interest on the client's end for that I can then reach out to and build upon, with the relationship and helping them get the right insurance in place. So,
okay.
But I'd love to hear more. So I know you do business a little bit different. On the P&C side, you're more cold call and data driven, not really lead driven. So I think it'd be a good thing to talk about for everybody who might be listening, who is either considering using cold call and data, whether it's on the life insurance or P&C side, to hear how you go about doing that. How do you compile the data? Where do you get it from? And we'll start with that.
Yeah, and we don't purchase any leads on our side, and the reason that we don't is because we do business insurance and personal insurance. I don't buy any leads for personal insurance. Most of our personal insurance leads or prospects come through our website. But I'm going to talk specifically at the beginning about business insurance and commercial insurance. And every year, most businesses renew. There's some 3-year policies, but 99% of policies they renew every year. And on my perspective, the reason I don't buy leads is because some of those individuals I've called, I've reached out to, they're not necessarily upset enough to put their name in a lead generating system. And there's tons of them out there that collect their information and sell it to agencies. Some of them, they're frustrated, but they don't want to fill out that form. So they're almost kind of waiting for somebody to come in and ask them if they need help on it. They're not motivated to the point where they're going to reach out to somebody. So basically, I have 3 buckets in my agency. We have 3 buckets that we use. The first bucket is outreach. The second bucket is networking. And the third bucket is social media. So I'm going to talk about the first one real quick. Outreach, what we do is we pull public data on companies. A lot of companies have websites, they have Facebook pages, they have LinkedIn pages, they have pages on Google. And what we do is we usually collect company name, where they're located, phone number, email, website, and industry. I don't collect too much. I don't collect, hey, this is a big company, hey, this is a small company, because it's a numbers game. Not everyone's ready. Some people have great insurance agents that they use, and it doesn't make sense for them to talk with me, but I'm collecting that data quickly. I'm getting it on Facebook. Facebook refers 3 other companies that are kind of like that. I go in there, I collect the data, I go to their website, and I see if I can find an email. Usually the email's on the Facebook. I'm really small business focused, so usually the email is already on Facebook, and I'm reaching out to that email. And so I'm emailing them, I'm calling them, and I failed at this the first time I was an insurance agent. I thought I was doing a lot of outreach because what I was doing was more than the other people in the agency. So I was like, I'm doing good. I got a lot of outreach, but now I've automated a couple things. I've automated the emails. So I'll email a list and I don't have to physically go in and manually email. And then the calls, I put my calls goal for the week pretty high. I don't think I've hit my calls goal for the last 4 or 5 months. The reason I put that high, and this is just for me, because if you hit your calls goal, it is so uncomfortable cold calling. I don't care. Nobody likes cold calling. It's so uncomfortable cold calling that if you hit your goal, you're going to stop. You're just going to stop because you're going to be like, oh, I hit my goal. Like, I'm fine. But if you never hit your goal, you're like, man, I'm behind. And then you start hitting the phones to try to catch up. So that's what I kind of inadvertently did that, because I was like, I'll set my goal here. And then I just never lowered it and I never hit it, but that's fine. And then I also do some I call it alternative reach out. I do text messages, because a lot of the businesses I reach out to are small businesses. So I can just shoot them a text. I can shoot them a video message. I connected with a guy. He wants to get his insurance looked at. I haven't heard from him. I'll send him a video. Hey, Bob, what's up, man? We talked a month ago. Yeah, I haven't heard from you. That guy's going to open that video and he's going to be like, oh, here's a real person on the other end. You got to do things differently. There is no silver bullet. You can't just call. You can't just email. You can't just send letters. You can't just send LinkedIn connections. You got to do everything, because to connect with somebody, that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to connect with the decision maker, and we're trying to see if a conversation makes sense. Do they need help? And if somebody says they don't need help and they're perfectly fine, great. I will reach out to you in a year to make sure that's still the case. But the whole point is to try to make a connection to see if somebody needs help. And that's what we're all doing. You're calling leads because you're trying to see, someone says, hey, I need help. And you're saying, hey, do you need help? Yeah. Okay, let's meet. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting a lot of data and I'm calling that data and I'm trying to find out if they need help. So that's the outreach bucket. And the second bucket is networking. And I failed at this the first time I was an insurance agent. I said, I'm young. I'm scared. I don't want to go meet with somebody who's probably got a list of clients. I don't have any clients. What do I have to offer? And you always have something to offer. And it may not be something right now. You may not have 30 clients and that you can just refer to a CPA. right? Because you're trying to keep those clients and you're not just gonna, it's kind of an awkward conversation, but you still have value to meet with a CPA, even though you're not going to be feeding them 20 clients a year, if not any. I meet with networking partners all the time and I'm like, hey, I don't know when the need's going to arise. I know I have clients and they potentially need your service. So I always say, I have a networking meeting, I do something, I treat it the same thing as outreach. Number one, I have a cadence for networking partners. I want to reach out to at least so many a month. And I want to have at least a meeting every other week. It's awkward. I've wasted coffee meetings. I've wasted time, but I've also had some meetings with somebody who they referred me 3 accounts. And I'm like, I didn't think that was going to happen, but it's the same thing. How do we get in front of decision makers to see if they need help? Sometimes outreach, the number one flow, you can't get to the decision maker because they have their trusted group of people. And if they don't know you, you're a stranger, they don't trust you. But if their CPA says, I know Nate Jones, you can get that decision maker because he trusts you and the prospect trusts the CPA. So it doesn't have to be professionals. It could be friends and family. Not all your family and your friends you're going to sell to, but they know what you're doing and they may have a trusted person, but they may know somebody else who needs help. And they'll say, hey, my cousin does insurance. I don't use them because I have a guy, but you should look into it. So the more people that know what you do and they know that you do it the right way, the more chances that your name's out there in someone's breath. Number 3, social media. I was not doing this at the first agency I worked at because I was an agent there and I didn't think, I'm like, well, how do I do this? And even if you're an agent, like you don't even own the business, you should ask your agency owner, but you should create a Facebook page. You should create a Facebook page for your profession. If you're selling to people that for personal insurance or commercial insurance, you should have a Facebook page for yourself or some sort of social media where you're able to share content about what you're doing. Maybe that's LinkedIn, you're sharing stuff, but social media is one of the most effective tools if you can use it right, because you're posting and it's very passive. You're connecting with people, you're kind of posting about it. You're not selling on social media, you're educating. Me and Abe know a lot about insurance, so we both educate on Facebook. I don't say, hey, who needs personal insurance? No, I say, hey, you should look into your coverage A on your homeowners because it might be underinsured because lumber prices are going up. Different things that are educating, how to create a disaster recovery plan or something like that, where you're constantly posting stuff that add value. And then within social media, we have SEO, which is search engine optimization. So when somebody searches, if you're in Greenwood, Indiana, and you search motorcycle insurance in Greenwood, we're the first listing to pop up. So we get 2 or 3 calls a week just from Google. And sometimes sometimes we close those, sometimes we don't. It just kind of depends, but it's kind of passive because I put it all out there. This is another failure story. Created a website for my business. It was sleek. It was minimalistic. There was nothing. It was just like, I was like, wow, this is awesome. Why do people not do this? There's so many words on people's website. Then I learned about SEO and I spent 50 hours revamping my whole website because I didn't have, like, for trucking insurance, I didn't say that we did trucking insurance. I didn't type about it. I didn't provide a whole long paragraph about it where it would show up on the internet. I didn't know how to get my pages on Google. And then I had to redo the whole thing just to show up. And now it takes 6 months to consistently show up. Now we're consistently showing up because we looked into it, but it's very passive because people search it and they find you on that. So just different flows kind of coming in. And if I did one and I didn't do the other, it probably wouldn't be enough.
Yeah. And I think it's multiple streams of leads or data, whatever you're doing, that keeps your business consistent, right? If I only, even on the lead side, if I just focused on one lead type and one potential client data point, some weeks are going to be really good, but then other weeks are going to be bad. But if I can keep all the different data points flowing, right? So like you're doing, that's what creates that consistency that helps take your emotions out of the picture. And you don't put yourself out of business because one week is really good and the next week is like really bad.
Yeah.
That, right. Now, I did want to back up to something you had mentioned there, right? And that's back to networking. And I 100% agree. Networking is very important. And everybody is a potential referral source, like you had mentioned earlier, as far as where you're reaching out to people. But I think there's a fear because of some people have ruined that image when you're talking about talking to friends and family so they know what you're doing. Whereas, how do you draw that line of not becoming the guy at the family reunion that everybody runs and hides from because you only see them as a business transaction, but also you don't want to go to the other end to where you're not helping your friends and family and their friends and family because you're too scared to talk about it, right? So, how do you find that line and what does that look like for you so that you can actually effectively help your friends and family and their friends and family?
I think it's all in the approach because it's awkward. I If a family member reaches out to me, great, I'll work on it, but I'm not super offensive about it because family members either see you as you don't do a great job for them, but they're scared to leave you because you're family, or you do an amazing job. You spend more time on that account than you would have because they're family and they don't see the value. So with family, I'm asking about their lives. What are they doing? They naturally ask about my life. And then I talk about what we're doing. And if they're interested, they'll probably respond in a way like, oh, well, yeah, we're with so-and-so. We've been with them for a while or whatever. There's always a story. Everybody's got a story about their insurance agent, who they use, even if they use Geico or somebody online. And they got a story about it. And if they want to quote, there would be some sort of interest. And I'm like, hey, if you need help, I can always quote it out, but they're a great company. I'm not saying, hey, let me quote you or let me see if I can win your business, because family and friends, I am not going to scale my business. I'm not going to grow my business to a level by just selling to my family and friends. And I would rather have a great relationship with a family member who doesn't use me for insurance, but they know that I know what I'm doing. And when their friend that they play chess with or that they play sequence with has a need, they can send that person to me. So it's like, hey, it's kind of like the old argument, don't win an argument and lose a friend. Don't sell to your family and lose a referral source.
Yeah, and I would agree. I have helped family and I have helped Warren Market. The difference is I'm not approaching them asking them for a sale, right? I am sustaining and supplying my business with the financial needs off of my other sources that they know what I do, and when the time comes that they're ready and they need help, they can reach out to me, right? Mm-hmm. I think where a lot of people get that line muddied and wind up being the guy that everybody runs from is they're not sustaining and supplying their financial needs for the business. And then when they go to a family reunion, they're desperate for a sale, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you're desperate for a sale and you need income, the only thing you can think about no matter what you're doing is, I need to make some money. I need to make some money. And then all of a sudden you're around family and friends and you start harassing them unknowingly to get a sale from them. So I love that, right? It's putting out there what you do, but not approaching them for a sale, letting them approach you for the sale when that time comes.
And it's the same way if you're networking with let's say you go meet with somebody, financial advisor, or somebody in your professional, mostly it's lawyers, CPA, financial advisors, different things on my end, realtors, commercial bankers, whatever. You don't go into that meeting expecting you're going to get referrals. You go into the meeting, what I always say, when you network, you're thinking about the other person. I don't know a commercial banker, so I'm meeting with this guy because if one of my clients needs a line of credit, I can know that I trust this guy. I'm looking at the perspective of, do I trust my clients? Do I trust, if I had kids, do I trust my kids working with these people? Not, oh man, this guy's got a massive client base. How can I get in front of some of his people? Because if you give to somebody, if I give to that commercial banker and I have a relationship, he's going to feel somewhat obligated to give back. And even if he doesn't, like I said, the whole point is if you can keep your clients and they trust you, they look at you as more than just an insurance agent, but somebody who's going to connect them with somebody who does a great job like you do, then you're going to keep that client, and that client's going to turn into an advocate. and you're going to get referrals from that client. So when I network, I'm not saying how can you help me? It's, hey, let me make sure that you actually do a great job. And it goes back to desperation. If you're desperate for sales, you're going to go meet with somebody and you're going to say, hey, every time you refer somebody, I'll give you a $20 gift card, or hey, how could you tell me about some of your clients? It's like, I don't want to know about their clients. I want to know what they do, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's approaching the relationship from a point of how can you add value to them, not how can they add value to you. Because if my focus is on just adding value to you, you're naturally at some point in time going to want to add value back to me, right? And so, but I think we can get it twisted if we're not careful, right? We see everybody as a transaction instead of a relationship, and a transaction is asking, hey, how can you add value to me?
Yeah.
But a relationship is me coming in and saying, how can I add value to you? And that's the proper way to network. So I love that with what you talked about there for sure. So
yeah, and it's just every industry is small. So like realtors, I have a friend that's a realtor. He gets messaged by an insurance agent like every week. Every week he gets a message. And they're like, hey, I'd like to meet you for coffee and stuff. All they want is for them to refer when somebody buys a house, homeowners insurance. That's all they want. And my viewpoint, I'm only going to network with one realtor. I don't need two.
yeah.
I only need one. I only need one, maybe one or two commercial bankers, depending on what they can lend. But really, you shouldn't have two professionals in one area, because how can you, unless you trust both those individuals, where I see some people, they're reaching out to 20 realtors to try to create this flow of referrals. And it's like, well, you're never going to be able to reciprocate the giving back to 20 different people, you know?
Yeah, 100%. So let's briefly touch on referrals real quick, right? Why is that important to your business? So we talked about data collection and leads. Now let's real quick, referrals. Why are referrals important to your business, Nate? I'll let you go first, and then I'll kind of touch on why they're important on the life insurance side.
Yeah, because we had one, data collection, and two is outreach consistently. And that's just reach out, don't just call once, follow up. You got to follow up. And then after that, it's organize and execute, do what you say you're going to do. We've already talked about that. And then now we're on the referrals, which is stay in touch. And basically what you're doing is, if you do a great job and you've helped that prospect out with their coverage, their price, the expertise, and you've helped them out, naturally that should become a referral source that you've helped them out. And usually they're going to say, oh, well, you've done a great job. Thank you so much. And that's when you could say, hey, if you know of anybody else who's kind of in your same situation or needs some help, keep my name out there. And also, if I know of anybody, I'll keep your name out there. If someone's looking for landscaping, or if somebody's looking for painting, hey, I'll keep your name out there, because sometimes I know people that are looking for it. Like, I had a friend he needs to get his carpet redone, and I knew somebody. So it's just asking, and it's really awkward sometimes. If you feel awkward kind of asking for a referral, you might be doing it the wrong way. And, you got to have that prospect. If they kind of see the value you're bringing, you're helping them out, there's a time to do it. After you've closed the deal 2 months later, and you're staying in touch, maybe you can bring it up then. But a lot of people, I think they approach it the wrong way. So how do you do it, Abe?
Yeah, and so you're exactly right. Like, the approach to a referral is so important, and the approach starts with your initial interaction with the client before they become your client, right? They are feeling you out from that initial phone call. And so again, it's approaching the relationship like we talked about. Like, I'm not asking how can they add value to me in the beginning. I'm approaching that relationship saying, hey, how can I add value to you on that initial phone call, right? But after we've helped them get their insurance in place, we've got everything signed and submitted, they're approved. I just let them know. I just simply say this at the end: hey, Nate, I do life insurance, mortgage protection, final expense insurance, annuities, IULs. If you know anybody down the road who could use my help, feel free to pass on my information to them. I'm always more than willing to help the family and friends of my clients, because you are like family to me. So if that ever comes up and you have somebody down the road, don't hesitate to give them my info. And if they do call me, make sure they let me know that you sent them my way so I can give the appropriate recognition and thanks to you for doing that. Fair enough?
Yeah. No, I think it's not awkward. It's
Yeah.
at the end of a specific transaction, and you're not saying like you're expected, you
Yeah.
know?
When I first started in insurance, some of the people I worked with, they trained me to, okay, at the end of a sale, you slide a paper across to them and say, hey, can you give me 5 names and numbers of people you know who could use my help? I'm not going to do that, right? I'm going to let them know that I'm always here to serve them and their family whenever that time comes. Here's my business card. And it's crazy, man. Like in August, I had about $6,000 in sales of people who reached out to me who were clients from about a year ago that like they just randomly called me. And I'll never forget the one phone call I got. She left me a voicemail. She said, hey, this is so and so. Give me a call back. And I'm like, I don't know that name, right? Because it was a friend of a client. So I called her back. I was like, this is Abraham. And she goes, do you do that insurance? And I said, yes, I do insurance. How can I help you? She goes, but do you do that insurance? And I was like, what type of insurance are you looking for? She goes, mortgage protection insurance. I said, oh, yes, I do. I was like, how can I help you? So I got some information from her and I asked her, I was like, just out of curiosity, I was like, how did you all get my name and number? She was like, oh, you helped so and so, last year. And there was our son and daughter. And they spoke very highly of you. So we figured rather than fill out these forms coming in the mail, we'll just call you instead.
Yeah.
Right. That's the kind of referrals I'm looking for. Right. The ones where I have earned the trust and the respect enough that they're naturally sending people my way because they know that I want to help.
Yeah. And the biggest thing you said was when the time comes. And when you ask for somebody for 10 names on a list, that's you saying, it's my time to call. And
Yeah.
you're calling that list. And like I said before, not everybody is buying today. Not everybody is available and wants to purchase something. But when you say, oh, give me a list and let me call them, it's about you versus that client will want to refer people your way when they see the need, when they have the need. Because like it's like buying rain boots, man. You buy rain boots either before it rains or you already have them or after it rains. You're not buying rain boots every 2 or 3 months. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's just for referrals, you do have to be willing to ask for them, right?
Yeah.
But not asking for them in the moment. Just asking for them saying, hey, down the road, if you ever had friends and family who need our help, man, have them give me a call. I am always more than willing to help friends and family of clients. Because what you're doing is you're not saying sell. You're not saying I'm always willing to sell them, right?
Yeah.
You're saying, hey, because I helped you and you're my client, I value you. So I'm going to value the people that you value. And so when the time comes and they need help, give me a call. Now, I will say, Nate, I've had people call me because they need an insurance rep's help, but they're not looking to buy insurance. They already have a policy and so passed away and they need help just
Yeah.
kind of navigating things. Guess what? I'm there to help them still, even though I have never made a dime off of that sale. You want to know why? Because my value proposition is I'm approaching the relationship with how can I add value to you?
Mm-hmm.
And if I add value to enough people, I'm always going to have everything that I want from this life financially. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I say, like, when that time comes, I'm always more than willing to help your friends and family because you're my client. Doesn't mean I'm willing to I'm going to make them a sale. It's whenever they have a question that I can help with, send them my way.
Yeah.
Guess what happens? When those people that I help that aren't making a sale initially, a couple months later, it comes back around. Now they're like, hey, we need some life insurance. Remember that guy who we called and he helped us file the death claim? Yeah. Let's reach back out to him. He seemed like a good guy. We can trust him.
Yeah.
It's earning that trust of the relationship, but so many people make it transactional instead of relational. And I'm telling you, when a salesman is in my house and he starts making it transactional, I shut it down.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the same most people are going to do. Relationships have to matter when it comes to clients and client acquisition.
Yeah. Cause then, I mean, at the end of the day, it's that same cadence we talked about at the beginning, stay in touch, whether you get the account or not. Yep. I've gotten accounts I didn't think I was going to get. I didn't get accounts that I didn't think I was going to get. And I was confused why the communication like wasn't communicated to me, why they weren't going to do it. But that's the thing, is you can't get upset and say, are you serious? Like, I know I've heard some people that their insurance agent like flipped out and said, oh, we've been together for like 10 years. It's just like some of the immaturity that we've seen in the industry. It's like, just because you don't get an account, that's okay. Like, are you going to be around? I'm going to be around the next 30 years. You're going to be around probably the next 30 years too. We're not going anywhere. Like, you don't get it, move on. You know, it's like, don't create a negative self-image about yourself because you didn't get your way. And that's the same thing we're talking about. It's about them. It's not about you. If they went with somebody else, that's their decision. And it's not, oh, well, I don't understand the value I brought. Well, maybe the value you thought you brought wasn't the value that the prospect thought he was getting.
Yeah.
So,
well, keep in mind too, your character is never judged by how you treat people when you win.
yeah,
Your
exactly.
character is judged by how you treat people when you lose. And let me tell you something, if you want to be known as a person of terrible character and never be able to get your clients back when they leave, go ahead and chew them out when they tell you they're leaving, because guess what? That will stick with them more in their brain than the previous 10 years of how you've helped them will stick with them.
Yeah.
Right? You got to learn how to win graciously, but also lose graciously.
Yeah.
Because that's just the way it's business, and that's just the way business works. And my life is too short to get worked up every time somebody told me no. If I got worked up every time somebody told me no in this client acquisition process, I'd probably have a heart attack 10 times a day.
Yep.
You got to learn just to let it roll off you. They're not a bad person just because they didn't go with you. It's just not the right time for them this time. Right.
Yeah.
And just keep moving on. So I love it. And I hope this adds value to a lot of people out there. When it comes to, if you have any questions on how to do a data list and how to process some of that on, like Nate was talking about, reach out to us, LinkedIn, Facebook. If you have any questions on how to navigate the world of leads, reach out to me as well on Facebook and LinkedIn. We're more than willing to share and help and add value to you so you can get off to where you want to be in the industry. So
yeah, and there's no there's no approach that everybody should take. Everybody should take a different approach. Everyone's got a different personality. Some people are better on the phone. Some people are better on not on the phones. They just can't call people, and they work at it and they're still not the best. So you got to find a way that works for you. And I'm constantly tinkering, changing things around. And in a year, it's going to look completely different. But that's the whole point, is you're putting effort in, and you're putting effort in and getting prospects coming in so you can help them. And thanks for listening. Like and subscribe and share. And if you have any questions, comment below. Take care.